and welcome to episode 137 of the She Must Knit podcast. My name is Erin, and thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. So happy New Year's, guys. It is January. We are a couple of days in. I hope you guys all had a really good holiday season. I hope you had a really good New Year's. Let me know if you did anything exciting on New Year's Eve. We did not. We were home, and Avery really wanted to stay up till midnight. So we kind of timed when we went up and got ready for bed for like around 30 minutes before that, so that by the time we were all done and ready and in our PJs, and like by the time it was 12, it was basically like Happy New Year's everybody, and then good night, and we just went to bed. So nothing exciting over here. But yeah, I hope the start of the new year has been really good for you. We haven't been doing very much. We finally managed to get over to my mom's house to celebrate Christmas, because I don't know what was going on and going around, but it seemed like everybody in not only like my immediate family but extended family and like friends and like all these people that we had plans to see over like the week of Christmas, everybody was getting sick. So lots of plans got postponed, and yeah, but we managed to, so far we are good. We've just been at home in our nice little bubble, and things have been fine. So we are now, January? It's January 4th. It's a Thursday, so Dennis is back to work, so I have some time today. And on Monday, Avery goes back to school, and then it will just be like everything getting back to normal, getting back to a routine, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just want to pop on. I had mentioned in my last segment of Vlogmas that I was going to try and do an episode in the beginning of January to kind of recap what I managed to do in December, and then also let you know what my plans were for 2024, like what I was hoping to get done. We're going to talk about my bingo card. If you're not familiar with Crafty bingo, I'll discuss that a little bit later. But yeah, what I foresee, what I'm going to try and aim to do, what I would like to accomplish over the coming year. Now, I am noticing in my little monitor there that I am looking pale and ghostly right now, and I don't know if that's going to come across in the finished video, but the light, it's like it's a really bright day, but it's also kind of overcast, so I think the lighting is just, it's coming through the window in kind of an odd way, and it's making me look a little bit ghostly, but we're just gonna push through. That's fine. Let's see, which way to talk about. I want to cover two things before I start going into what I made over the course of December. The first thing is, if you were not following along with our Vlogmas, I did announce that my mystery club for the Bling Your String shop is up. The listings are there. My 2024 mystery club listings are available, and I am continuing the theme of most colorful creatures. I have found 6 new creatures where just the colors, I found pictures where the colors really inspired me that I really wanted to create new colorways with. I'll put up a little picture there in the corner of the 6 new creatures that I will be inspired by. And yeah, if it's something that you're interested in, it's available in the shop. Each one is available, both like you can get just the monthly. If there's one animal or one kind of colorway that you are really drawn to, they're available individually. But then I also have bundles, 3-month bundles, that will save shipping when you kind of combine months. There's lots of choices of yarns. You can do sock weight. I've got a worsted weight option this year. There's options for accent skeins to be added on. There's options for bags to be added on for 2 of the months. There's stitch marker options. There's all kinds of things that you can really kind of customize a shipment to be exactly what you would enjoy. So those listings are there, and the January shipment, I will be keeping that one up just a little bit longer to give people time, but then after that, for the following months, once I start dyeing that month, that listing is taken off the website. So that's that on the website and my mystery club. The other thing that I wanted to mention, if you were following me all last year, you might remember me saying many times that, yeah, it's not that I was purposely trying not to buy yarn last year. It's just I was really enjoying working from the yarn that I had in my stash and figuring things out on how to use what I had, that if I could go the whole year without buying yarn, it was kind of a unofficial goal of mine. And I just wanted to say that I completed that goal. I did not buy myself one single skein of yarn last year. So I'm pretty proud of that, and I actually plan on doing that again this year. I have more than enough yarn, I think, to get me through most of the projects that I want. There's just one project that I'm going to make an exception for, and I will talk about that when we talk about my bingo card later. So those are the two main things. So let's get started into what I worked on in December. And I'm going to just do kind of a quick wrap up of all the things that I worked on and completed over December. For those of you who did not follow along with Vlogmas, this will be all new to you. If you did follow along with Vlogmas, this will kind of be like a recap. But then I'm going to go into my Crafty bingo card and what I'm hoping, what you should be seeing over the next 12 months. So in December, let's see, what do I want to start with? I think I'm going to start with the 2 blankets. So there are 2 ongoing blanket projects that I have year to year that I add to. I've got my mitered square blanket, and then I've got my granny stripe blanket. My mitered square blanket, I put in, that's the first depot for any fingering weight leftovers that I have. I like to put it into my mitered square blanket, and I section things off by the year, and I make a little tag and I add that to the section so that over the years you can really see how much I added to it each year. And when it's all done, you'll be able to see, there'll be like a whole kind of like story with how long that blanket took me, what yarns I was working on each year, that kind of thing. I just like that idea that you could really see year to year its progress. And so the other day I did kind of close off my 2023 section. Now I kind of had to make a decision because technically I still had some yarns. It's kind of hard to decide, like, okay, is each section all the projects that I worked on in a given year, or is each section how many squares I was able to add in a given year? So I was working on this section here, and I was going, I think there's 7 squares in a row, and then I had 2 rows. And the last week of December, I was kind of adding my squares in. I wanted to try and get this closed off, and I got, where was I? I was going this way. So I added in this square here, which was one of the yarns. If you remember my brother Owen's microstripe socks, where I was combining the 2 different tweed yarns with this kind of variegated kind of speckled yarn. This blue was the other tweedy yarn. And so I got this in. So technically, I had 2 other yarns that were part of that project that I had to add. But after that, I didn't have any yarns that were ready to go in this blanket. I had some projects that I had started last year, so like my Muppet socks and the sock blank socks that I was working on in November, but I haven't finished those, so those yarns aren't available to put in here. So if I added those 2 last squares, then I would have an incomplete row, and it was like, okay, do I then just add random yards to complete the row? And I didn't really want to do that. So I decided that I was just going to close off my 2023 section on this square. I did add my little tag. You can see it. Hopefully it will show up. I don't know if I can get it to be clear, but I added my little tag there. And I'm going to start this year with those 2 yarns, and I'm going to start the section on the end here going this way. And you can see I have another line here. So let's see, is that what I was going to do? Wait a minute. Nope, that's not what I was going to do. I was going to start it over near this blue square here. And you can see I have a line here. So this is going to be for, and then I have this second, okay. This is very awkward. You can see here I have a quarter. I'm going to start the next year here, and I'm going to be going across in groups of 4 for each row and working my way up to kind of finish off. I'm going to work my way up to even out this side. Now I don't think I'm going to be able to do all of that in 2024, but I'm working on closing off that section. What I might do is actually just take a picture of the blanket on the ground and try and mark it to show you the different years, and it might be a little easier to explain that way. So that's the first thing I did, is I closed off my mitered square blanket. The other thing that I was working on, and you would have seen if you were following me in Vlogmas, so like I said before, my mitered square blanket is kind of like the first depot for any leftover yarns. The rest of the leftover yarns go into my granny stripe blanket, so they go in a bin, and then every year in December over Vlogmas, I work on putting all those extras into my granny stripe blanket. And so that's what I worked over the course of the month. This right here, that little red stitch marker, is where I started off at the beginning of December. And then this is how much I was able to add in over the month, okay? And it's quite a wide blanket. I did take a picture of this on the floor to try and give you a better idea of how much how much of yarn went into it, but I did manage to finish that in December. So those were the two main things in terms of ongoing projects that I worked on over December. And then I had a bunch of other projects that I was able to complete, some planned, some unplanned, that I'm going to share with you now. So just to go back with the last regular episode that I think I did at the end of November, I had to go back and rewatch just to see what I had been working on then, and so what would have been the last things that you saw. And I was working on the first sock of Ian's microstripe socks. I was just past the heel on the first sock. I had added some squares to my mitered square blanket. I had finished my exploration station, which is awesome. I actually did wear that the other day. I wore it a couple times in December, so that I've already been enjoying that. And then I shared with you my spinning, where I was with my spinning, but it was not complete yet. So what do I want to start with? Let's start with that, since that's the last thing I just mentioned to you. I was able to finish my spinning in December. This was something that was on my 2023 bingo card, and this was actually the last square that I had to complete in order to complete my whole square. So this project gave me a full bingo card. That is the first time that I have been able to do that since I started the Crafty Bingo Challenge, so I was so pleased with myself. Now, was I spinning on December 31st? Absolutely. I think I was even it wasn't even that I was plying. I think the morning of the 31st I was still spinning, and I know you're supposed to let singles rest and all that stuff, but I wasn't gonna let that stop me from filling out my bingo card. So I finished spinning the singles in the morning. I think I wound them into a cake because I was planning on doing a 2-ply. I let that cake sit for a little bit while I fed my children and stuff like that, but then I came back to it and I did a 2-ply, and this is the finished yarn. So this was some Fat Cat knits, and I did find the tag for it. It's a superwash Target yarn. I knew it was superwash, and yeah, this is how the 2-ply turned out with all of the colors. So I don't know what I would call this. It's probably a worsted in some parts, a little bit thicker than worsted in other parts. I was able to get about 160 yards out of the 6 ounces of fiber, and that is just going to go into my hand spun stash, and we'll see if I end up working with it over the next year. So that was my spinning. I did 2 little ornament projects over the month. The first one was something that I added to my mom's Christmas gift, and I'll just pop up a little picture in the corner there because obviously it has already been gifted, but I made a little needle felted cardinal. And then the other thing that I made was for our Christmas tree. So if you've ever seen any of our Vlogmases, you'll know that with all our Santa pictures every year, I like getting the ornament frames so that on our Christmas tree we have the whole, every year, the Santa visit or something with Santa. And for a long time, obviously it was just Avery, and then the last couple of years it has been Kira as well. I started doing the ornament frames several years after we had actually started doing Santa visits. So there was always the first couple of years when Avery was just really little that I didn't have those pictures on the tree. Well, this December I was able to find the very first Santa picture of Avery when she was like 1. And I was able to find it. I was able to get it onto the computer. I was able to order some wallet-sized pictures of it. And then I did not have any frames because I had already ordered the ones from Michael's that I would normally order. They were sold out by the time I got this picture. So I just decided to make one. And I made it out of polymer clay. And I just did a whole thing. There's a whole thing in one of my Vlogmas episodes on the process that I took to make that. But yeah, I just used different colors of polymer clay. I used a mold to get the numbers. I used a texture sheet for the texture that you see in there and the texture that you see there. And then I used different colors of nail polish to kind of give the tree and the frame a metallic finish. So that's another little crafty project that I finished in December. I did manage to finish my brother's microstripe socks. I got those done a couple of days actually. I actually did finish them in time. Even if we had gone to see my family when planned on Boxing Day, they would have been done. But I did end up having a lot of extra time if I hadn't finished them because our visit got delayed. But yeah, I finished those. I think I even finished them before Christmas. And again, I don't have them. They've already been given away, so I will pop up a picture there. And if you remember, I was using 2 different striping yarns to get that effect, and I really like how they turned out. I would actually like to try another pair for myself this year using 2, like I'm gonna have to look through my striping yarn stash, but I'd like to find 2 that are like wildly different, like really 2 bright, happy, fun striping yarns that have totally different colors, and see how that looks when done with like the double striping microstripe socks. I think that would be just a ton of fun. I would love to see how that looks. So I was able to finish those, and then finally I was able to finish 3 more projects, but 2 more patterns, 2 more types of project, I don't know, that I was not planning on making, but they still ended up helping me finish off my bingo card, which is awesome. So I think the first one I completed was this here, and this is just, as you can see, it's a Santa hat. And like I said, I was not planning on making this, but there was one, I think it was just like 2 or 3 days before Christmas. And years and years and years ago, I made Avery a hand knit, like chunky Santa hat, and she's been wearing it. She was wearing it all December. And finally one day, Kira was like, I want a Santa hat too. And I was like, okay, if I can find the yarn in my stash to make you a Santa hat, I will make you a Santa hat. And I managed to find, I think 2 types, maybe 2 or 3 types of red worsted weight yarn. And then I found a white worsted weight yarn and kind of a light gray worsted weight yarn. And I ended up doing 3 strands together. So I did 3 strands of the red for the body, and then I doubled up the white worsted and then held it with the gray worsted for the brim. And you can kind of see that there's a bit there, it's a little bit marled, like it kind of has a marled look, and one of the red skeins was darker, so the red also has a bit of a marled look. And I did not follow a pattern. I kind of just cast on a bunch of stitches. I think on my Ravelry page I did make some very like basic notes on what I did, but I basically just cast on a bunch of stitches here. I did a 2x1 rib, and then I think I knit I don't know, a couple rows, maybe 5 rows, and then I just started I figured out what my like repeat would be. I think it was like an 8 stitch repeat, and then every 5 rows I just decreased 1 more. So it would have been like knit 7, knit 2 together, and then 5 rows, knit 6, knit 2 together, and knit 5 rows, knit 5, knit 2 together, that kind of thing. And I just I repeated that all the way up to the top, and then I did knit 2 together all around, closed it off, and added the little pom. And this fits her really, really well. It's super cute on her, and I think it will fit her for at least a couple of years. So for at least a couple of years, they will now both have hand knit bulky, kind of chunky looking Santa hats, which will be really great for, the Santa Claus parade and any other kind of Christmas events that our town does. They can wear their Santa hats. The other thing that I managed to get done in order to finish my card was this after Christmas. I can't remember, it might have been after Christmas, but it only took me like 2 days. But I was able to make, this was because I was looking for a pattern to complete. I had one square that was make 2 patterns using PDF patterns from my Ravelry library, and I had already finished one and I just needed one more, and I was just like scouring my PDF library trying to find something that would knit up fast, and I ended up finding this pattern here, which is called Grateful, and it basically uses super bulky yarn, and it's a really easy pattern where you're basically just doing a 2x2 rib, but then every once in a while you are doing these wrap stitches, and it kind of gives it just a really neat effect. You can kind of see the different yarns really play together well. But it was a really quick knit. I started with Kira's. I made one for Kira and one for Avery. So this is Kira's, and this took me a couple of tries to get the sizing right, because obviously I didn't check my gauge. Why would I do that? I was just using a yarn from Stash. I used 2 strands of this marble chunky held together with 1 strand of, if you see that lighter purple there, is like a sparkle yarn. So I did 2 strands of the marble chunky with 1 strand of the sparkle yarn, and whatever thickness that gave me, that's what I was working with. And so it took me 3 starts to get the sizing right for Kira's, but I was able to restart this project 3 times, finish Kira's hat, and then cast on and finish Avery's hat all in like 2 days, maybe 2.5 days. So super quick pattern if you're looking for just like a fun hat gift, because I think it looks adorable on them. I'm planning on making myself one. Like when we talk about my bingo card, I will talk about that more, but I am planning on making myself one. I think this would be super cute on an adult. I think any age this would be super cute on. So I was able to finish those 2 hats, which finished off that square, and then once I finished the spinning, that's what finished off my entire 2023 bingo card. And yeah, like I said, I'm just so pleased with myself because that's the first year that I've ever been able to do that. So that was my December wrap up. Let's now go into my plans for the coming year, what I'm hoping to work on. And so we're going to be talking about the 2024 Crafty Bingo Challenge. If you are a new viewer, or if you are someone who has not heard me talk about the Crafty Bingo Challenge before, I will just briefly go over it. But I have got the sign up threads and everything going on in the Bling String group on Ravelry. You can join anytime. Obviously, January is the best time to join because it just gives you a whole year to work on what your goals are, but you can really join anytime during the year and just modify what your goals are to kind of fit the time that you have left in the year. But basically what you do is you go to the thread, you say, hey, I want to play along. I create a bingo card with your name on it in a Google Drive, whatever, that you can then go into and edit. And you can add, you make your goals. So it's not something where the like it's predetermined and you have to try and meet those things. It's your goals. So you can decide based on how much you craft, what kind of crafts you enjoy, just how much time you have to put into your projects, what kind of goals work best for you. You can make squares that you have to complete a lot of things in order to complete that square, or you can make squares that it's just one thing to complete that square. You can break up big projects over several squares. I've seen people do that with like sweaters. So you can kind of make it manageable for you. And I think that's what a lot of people really like about it, is that they can really personalize their bingo card. And a lot of people say, I've been doing this for at least, I think someone in the thread said this was their 6th year participating. So it's been around for at least 6 years. And I find that this helps me so much, just making sure that I am crafting throughout the year. Especially the last couple of years with Kira, I could honestly say I didn't have the bingo card to kind of guide my crafting and guide my projects. I think I would have just stopped. I would have just stopped knitting, stopped crafting, and I would have gone probably a couple of years without really doing very much. And it's something I really enjoy. So just having this guideline, it really helps me focus on something during the year. When it comes to like, oh, I just want to work on something, but I don't know what to work on, I can look at my bingo card, see what kind of things I was hoping to do, and I can kind of put that focus in. Now, I understand that sometimes your interests change, and usually in June I allow some changes to your bingo card so you can kind of revamp things. But yeah, you don't even have to be that specific with your card. I actually recommend to try and keep things fairly general for some of your goals and then maybe more specific for others, and you'll kind of see that as we go through mine. So I think we will talk about my card now so that I can share with you what I finally finalized my card. There was last couple of days I've had one spot left, and I just really haven't known what to do with that spot, but I think I decided today what I want to do with that spot. So now I have a full card, I can post it in the group, and I can start working on my card. So do I want to do the whole screen as my card, or do I think I'm gonna shift over and I'll try and make as big a space as I can to put the card in. Okay, I think I finally figured something out. That was way more work than it should have been, to just make a little spot on the side there to put my bingo card. If you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking down at my phone where I have my little card set up here, and we are going to talk about, we'll probably go from the top, we'll go from like, I'm looking at it, it's going to be from left to right, hopefully it's left to right for you as well, and then top to bottom. So, as usual, there's a lot of goals that I tend to repeat year to year just because there's a lot of projects that I know I'm going to want to make, like socks. And so almost every year I have squares related to socks in some capacity. So if you'll see, the very first square at the top row there is knit 2 pairs of socks. And I kind of struggled with how I wanted to do socks because last year I had a lot of squares that were just single pairs of socks, like knit a pair of socks for Evan, knit a pair of socks for Owen, Ian, my mom, Rebecca. So I had a lot of individual socks. And then I actually had a pretty productive sock year last year, and I made way more socks than I thought I would. So this year I'm being less specific with who the socks are for, but I'm making more socks per square that I'm including socks. I think last year I was able to make 10 pairs of socks, which is by no means the most pairs of socks that I have ever made in a year, but it's definitely more than I had in the last couple of years since Kira's been around. So I made, you can see there's kind of a diagonal there going where I have 2 pairs of socks for each square, and I have 5 squares total for 2 pairs of socks. So 10 pairs of socks. I'm hoping to at least meet the amount of socks that I made this year. So going over to the next square, I have make at least 6 dishcloths. I've said this many times. I don't love making dishcloths, but I do like making them as gifts. I like having some on hand, and I do like making myself 1 or 2 during the year. And so this way it kind of makes me do it. Otherwise, I don't know if I would actually make dishcloths. So 6, at least 6. The next square is one that I have every year, and it's to add all the leftovers that I accumulate this year into my granny stripe blanket, and I usually do that in December, as you will have seen. My next square is to make 2 booth samples. I need more samples for my booth for shows, for my worsted weight yarns that I am slowly building an inventory of, and I do have 2 samples in mind that I would like to do, and so I would like to make sure I make those, and so I put it on my bingo card. And the next one is weave in the ends. So my granny stripe blanket that you saw earlier, my goal for December is always just to get the yarns into the blanket. I don't even worry about the ends. And usually I'm someone who likes to weave in their ends as I go. I don't like seeing all the ends just waving about. So I always put a goal on my January, starting in the new year, to weave in those ends so that when I come into December and it's time to add more yarns, I don't have to worry about the ends. It's done. So I'll probably get that done this month, to be honest. So going down to the next row, we have random project. I always throw in random project squares because there's always something that comes up that I want to make that doesn't fit into a square that I've already made. Like, it doesn't fit into something that I've already put on my card. So I like having random projects that I can kind of, use in that way. We have another 2 pairs of socks. The next square is the last square that I had to fill in. And I decided to make it, it's kind of a continuation on a square that we'll talk about later. But I want to make a sweater. You'll see that later. I'll talk about it more. But the yarn that I have that I want to use is not quite the color that I want. I have been searching and searching and searching and searching for a particular shade of brown, like a brown sweater. I want something that's like kind of dark, but not like a deep dark brown, but also not like a tan brown. I just can't find anything in the style that I want, in the material that I want. So I've decided this year I'm going to knit one. And like I said, the yarn I have is not quite the color I want, but I think if I over dye it, I can get it to be kind of a brown shade that I want. So that's my plan. I'm going to make a sweater, and then the other square is going to be to dye that sweater the color that I want it to be. Going over next, we have Finish or Frog, a project from previous to this year. I also like to have a bunch of those squares. It makes me revisit older projects and make sure that they're not sitting too long, that each year I'm at least tackling a few projects that have been languishing and either finishing them or just ripping them out and like getting them out of the WIP inventory. So that is one square. Next, I am so excited about this one. Like, ridiculously excited about this one. If you followed along with Vlogmas, we talked about our tree for a little bit, and I had mentioned how we don't have a tree topper. We don't have a star, we don't have anything up there, because there's never been anything that really felt right. Like, I don't want just a star up there. I don't want an angel. I don't want, like, that's just never been what I want. And I forget what made me look for it. Maybe I was looking up tree toppers. Maybe I just like randomly was looking up tree toppers, felted tree toppers, something with tree toppers. And I happened to find these abominable, oh my God, it's a tongue twister. Abominable snowman, snow monster, whatever. The abominable monster, the guy from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer that chases them all and like has the teeth and everything. I saw a tree topper made where it was him holding a star. So at the end of the movie, when he's like all nice and has no teeth, and he helps them and he puts that star on the tree topper was basically him holding a star. So it was like a star for the top of your tree, but the abominable monster was doing that, like holding the star. And I just thought that was the cutest thing. And a lot of the ones I saw were like needle felted, and I usually try and do a needle felted project. And I'm like, that's it. I want to try and make a needle felted abominable snowman to put on our tree topper. He just kind of wraps around the top of the tree and then has a little star. I think it's going to be adorable if I can manage to make him. So that's the next square. Going down, I want to make more gift bags for Dennis. We saw in Vlogmas that I only have 3 gift bags for his presents, and usually I have more than 3, and the sizes are really weird. So I just want to make some more gift bags and regular sizes for more options for his gifts. I want to fix my blue sweater. Many years ago, you might know, if you are a regular viewer, you might remember, I made a sweater in a beautiful, like, it was like a bright cobalt blue. I love the color. But the neckline of the sweater, the pattern, even though I modified it to be shorter, I just don't like anything touching my neck, and I never wear that sweater because of it. So I want this to be the year where I somehow figure out how to fix that sweater so that I can wear it. So that's another square. Going across my free space, make something with hand spun. So instead of making a goal to spin yarn this year, I want to make something with hand spun yarn, because I have hand spun yarn that's just kind of building up in my stash. I want to make something. And my plan is to make one of these grateful hats, but with my hand spun. And I think that's going to be adorable. Next, we have another random project square. Going down, we have use pattern from book, magazine, or PDF library. In the past, I have had 2 separate squares for this. I have had one square where it's make something from a book or magazine. And then I have had another square that's usually make 2 things from my PDF library. And I always struggle with those squares. So this year I've decided to make that one square. I just want to make one thing from patterns that I already own, whether it be a magazine, a book, or my PDF library. Next, we have another whip square, and then another sock square. And then after that, we have the square where I mentioned earlier I'm going to allow myself to buy yarn for one specific project this year, and this is it. So my friend's daughter, Mackenzie, I want to make her one of those super squishy soft blankets that I use, that I crochet when I use like the Bernat blanket yarn. Kira has one, Avery has one. If you remember, I made a ton for Mr. T when he was around, and I just love crocheting those blankets. I actually enjoy crocheting those blankets, and I would like to make her one for Christmas next year. So I have to message my friend and I have to be like, what colors is she into? What color is her room? And then my plan is I'm not going to buy it all at once. I kind of want to do what I did with Kira's, where it was kind of like stripes. My plan is every time I go to Walmart, I'm going to check out the Bernat blanket section and maybe pick up a ball. When I go to Michael's and I have a 40% off coupon, I'm going to check out their Bernat blanket and pick up a ball. So my plan is to just get balls over the course of the year, add them to the blanket and make a stripy blanket. But I will have to buy that yarn because that's not a yarn that I have in stash. And I don't really feel like ordering a whole blanket worth at once. So I'm just going to be picking it up ball by ball and adding to it that way, but I am going to allow myself to buy that because I can't use my stash for that project. Going down to the last row, we have make some fabric birthday bags. Just like how I have my Christmas gift bags, I really like how it reduces the paper waste in our family. And I'd like to make some for the girls' birthday. So I plan on just finding some really fun, either birthday themed fabric or maybe like metallic fabric, something really like special and fun looking and brightly colored. And I'm going to make some birthday bags just so that there's some presents that I can put in there. I'm still going to wrap some because they're kids. Avery complains all the time how she prefers just to rip open presents, but I'm like, they're no different than if someone gives you a gift in a gift bag. Like, they're no different. But she likes to have some presents that she rips open. I'd like to have at least some in gift bags, and then some I will wrap 1 or 2 or something like that. Next is another sock square, and then next is the sweater that goes along with the dyeing yarn. The one sweater that I have made in the past that I actually wear is my Cumulus sweater, and I just find that design is just it's very much what I would buy in a commercial sweater, and I think that's why I wear that sweater the most. And so that's the pattern that I want to use for this brown sweater. But like I said, I don't have brown yarn, so I have one square where I'm going to be knitting the sweater with the yarn that I have, and then the other square for dyeing it in the color I want. And then finally, the last 2 squares of my card are another whip square and another sock square. So there we have it. That is my plan for my 2024 bingo card. Let me know below if you are participating in the bingo, Crafty Bingo this year. Are you excited? If you are not, I encourage you to head over to the Bling Your String group and join in. You know, give it a try. There's lots of people who will join in at the beginning and then just kind of realize it's not really the kind of challenge for them. It doesn't help them kind of focus on things. It's just not for them, and that's cool. You just stop playing. There's like really no, it's a very individual challenge. There's no one, you know, making sure like forcing you to do these things. There's no one checking in. There is a chat thread that you can participate in if you want. I do prizes monthly, but you know, there's no harm in just giving it a try. You might find that it's really helpful or really enjoyable. So that is it. I am going to close this off. I can hear the girls upstairs and they are not playing well together. I think Avery is probably not letting Kira do something that she really wants to do. And so there's some toddler screaming going on. So I'm going to close this off, and I will see you very soon. I think I'm actually planning on doing another episode fairly soon, going through all my old projects, all my whips, all the bags that have stuff in them, and we're going to go through them together. We're going to see what's in there. We're going to see what I think I'll finish, what I should just give up on and just, you know, either rip out or throw out or whatever, what I'm going to do with all these projects, so that I can kind of get a sense of what I have for those squares that are finish or frog a whip. So I think I'm going to do that in you know, the next week or two, and then we'll hopefully be able to start seeing some crafting happening in the new year. So I hope you have a wonderful day or evening, weekend, whatever you are doing. I hope you are crafting on all the things that bring you joy, and I will talk to you again soon.